May I have your attention, please? The minister is entering the room. Excellencies and distinguished guests, I am Park Hyung-chul, the Director of the Inter-Korean Policy Division at MOFA, and I'll be making the announcements for the evening. First of all, on behalf of Foreign Minister Kang Kyung-hwa, I would like to welcome all of you and thank you for attending this evening's event. Before we begin, please be advised that today's event is being televised in front of a live SNS audience, and so the event will be on record. Now Her Excellency Minister Kang Kyung-hwa will come up onto the stage to deliver her remarks. Excellency.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Your Excellency, Ambassador Mohammad Salim Al-Taharti, the Dean of the Diplomatic Corps, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed a great honor for me to welcome you to the official residence of the Foreign Minister. I live up there in the small apartment, but this is a space where we hold these diplomatic events. And I have to tell you that I've been wanting to host this reception from day one, since I became Foreign Minister. But as you know, it's been a very busy 10 months, and I think the 10 months of hard work has really paid off with a wonderful South-North Korean summit last Friday. So in a way, it comes very late, but perfect timing, because this is then our opportunity to brief you on the outcome of the Inter-Korean Summit just south of the Panmunjom last week. And by all accounts, the day's events and the outcome was much more fruitful and fulsome than many of us had expected. So I'm very happy to have this opportunity to brief you. And our special representative for Korean Peninsula Affairs, Mr. Lee Do-hun, will give you a short presentation, and we will field any questions and comments that you might have about that. But before we get to that, I'd just like to share with you some observations about where we are at this point. I think we all agree, looking back just 3-4 months, we were in a very different situation. There was much talk about a looming crisis on the Korean Peninsula, even a military crisis. And there was nothing but provocation after provocation from North Korea. And there was a lot of criticism about our approach to North Korea, which was one of both, yes, pressure and sanctions on the one hand, but the offer of dialogue on the other. But looking back, in hindsight, I think it is also clear that we didn't get here just out of the blue. It was, in fact, the persistence and the consistency of our stance vis-a-vis North Korea and the North Korean nuclear issue that has changed North Korea's calculation and brought us to where we are. And that change, in fact, began with the President's Berlin initiative that he declared in Berlin, and where he visited Berlin for the G20 summit. And using that opportunity, he outlined his vision of a peaceful, prosperous Korean peninsula that included both South and North Korea. And if you recall, the key elements of that initiative is that all we want is peace. We don't want to they confront North Korea. We don't seek its regime change. We're not seeking arbitrary unification or sudden unification. All we want is peace. We want lasting peace, which means we need to move beyond the current armistice regime and work towards a peace treaty. But we also want a complete resolution of the North Korean nuclear issue, but also in a peaceful manner. But we were also very clear that North Korea's nuclear program is unacceptable. Its ambitions to be accepted as a nuclear power is never going to materialize. And if they continue on this road and provoke, those provocations will only be met by further pressure and sanctions. But if they change course, and this was the critical point of the message that I think changed North Korea's calculation, if they change course, we stand ready to engage and to work together towards a better future. And that better future includes a new economic vision for the Korean Peninsula, where both South and North Korea participate and contribute. And toward this end, we need to restart South-North dialogue. This was broadly his Berlin initiative, and as immediate measures, he invited North Korea to come to the Pyeongchang Olympics and Paralympics, and he asked that we immediately address the humanitarian issue of the separated families. And that message has not altered from those key points since then. But as we all know, even after this announcement, North Korea continued to provoke to the end of November 29th being the last time they test-launched a long-range ballistic missile. So all we got was further provocation to this message of pressure but dialogue. And, of course, a lot of criticism about this being a very naive and idealistic initiative vis-a-vis a regime that holds nothing but hostility towards the South and the outside world. But I think the messaging, the persistent and consistent message, proved that it was starting to work when we saw the Mr. Kim's New Year message at the beginning of the year, where he said he wants to restart South-North dialogue, and North Korea will be coming to the Olympics. And the rest is a very accelerated pace of restarted South-North dialogue, and us using the opportunity of the North Korean participation in the Olympics, using that to really engage their special envoys at the opening, led by the sister of the leader, and also the closing, led by the person in charge of South-North affairs, really extensively engaging with them to convey our message so that that message can be fully conveyed to Chairman Kim. I think the chairman heard us, heard the president, and when the president sent his own envoys barely a week later, he was ready to engage and pretty much offered our special envoys the answers that we wanted from him. Our envoys came back, reported to the president, and took that to Washington, D.C., and briefed President Trump. And there, then, President Trump said, if that's what the North Korean leader is telling you, I am ready to engage with him. And so we were now on to hold a South-North Korean summit, but also the first ever U.S.-North Korea summit. So I think the South-North summit has taken place, and to be just there on the site where this was happening, and I'm sure many of you watched the live broadcast on television, every moment had such great deal of symbolism. And from the first handshake to the two leaders talking very privately, sitting on a bench and on a bridge, away from everybody, and all you could hear was the birds chirping as the two leaders were talking. And to the final joint announcement of the Panmunjom statement was a remarkable day. And beyond the symbolism, the quality of the dialogue and the product, the Panmunjom Declaration, I think, is a proof in itself that it was indeed a historic engagement. Now, the next stage, which is the U.S.-North Korea summit. And of course here, we want very much the success, the outcome of the South-North summit to lead into the U.S.-North Korea summit. The place and the timing of that yet to be announced, but we're hoping that that will be coming very shortly. But we very much expect the U.S. and North Korean leaders to put everything on the table. Foremost, the nuclear issue, and come up with an agreement that provides a fundamental solution, a peaceful, fundamental, complete solution to the North Korean nuclear issue, and also a way forward for lasting peace here on the Korean Peninsula. So that's where we are. I have to thank everyone for the tremendous amount of support that the South-North Summit has received from around the globe. I think we're still counting. We have about 90 statements of welcome and congratulations from governments, some 25 at heads of government and state level, and they continue to keep in. And that encourages us even more to work closely with the U.S. for a successful U.S.-North Korea summit. But I think the work doesn't end there. The nuts and bolts work of implementing the agreement that comes out will require another level of diplomatic engagement all around. So this is where we are, and Mr. Lee will have a further presentation, and we will be very happy to answer any questions after that. But for now, we have the Dean to give his remarks. Mr. Dean?
Thank you, Excellency.
May peace be upon you all. Excellency Kang Kyung-hwa, Minister of Foreign Affairs, distinguished officials, distinguished ambassadors, and dear friends, at the outset, I would like, on behalf of the Diplomatic Corps in Korea, to express our thanks and appreciation to Your Excellency for your gracious hospitality today, and for the briefing on the recent Inter-Korean Summit. We also extend to Your Excellency our gratitude and appreciation for the support and cooperation of your ministry and other government departments, which has been so generously extended to each one of us. We as Diplomatic Corps assure you our full support and working together toward building friendship, partnership, and cooperation between our countries and the Republic of Korea. We as diplomats, we are remain fully committed to work with your colleagues at the Ministry and other departments to make Korea the friendliest environment for diplomats and visitors. Excellency, I also have the honor to convey, on behalf of the Diplomatic Corps, our sincere congratulations to the leadership and the government and people of the Republic of Korea for the excellent effort and successful hosting of the Winter Pyeongchang Olympics, which paved the way for the inter-Korean dialogue. To that end, my colleague ambassadors and I also wish to offer you and the government of the Republic of Korea our felicitation on the successful holding of the Inter-Korean Summit in Panmunjom on April 27. We applaud the successful summit, and we convey to you and your government the best wishes of our governments for the reflected and for the early implementation of the important decisions taken during the summit, as reflected in Panjim Min Joint Declaration of Peace, Prosperity, and Unification for the Korean Peninsula. We wish the Korean people and their leadership every success in realizing their historic aspiration toward sustainable peace and prosperity. We share your hope that the DMZ, long a symbol of division, can become a symbol of peace, hope, and unification. The summit also illustrated that reconciliation, peace, and prosperity, as well as the escalation of conflict, are best achieved through dialogue based on tolerance and understanding. As diplomats, we always stand in support of the spirit of addressing all disputes and conflicts through dialogue, with the goal of achieving coexistence and peace. We hope that the successful Inter-Korean Summit will effectively pave the way for the upcoming summit between North Korea and the US toward success. In closing, we offer our sincere congratulations to President Moon Jae-in for his initiative to build toward a successful summit. We hope and pray for everlasting peace and sustainable prosperity for the Korean Peninsula and the world as a whole. May peace be upon you all. Thank you. 감사합니다.
Thank you, Excellency. Now the podium will go to His Excellency Lee Do-hun, the Special Representative for Korean Peninsula Peace and Security Affairs. The Special Representative will debrief you on the major outcomes of the 2018 Inter-Korean Summit. Excellency.
Good evening, Excellencies, friends and colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. I'm pleased tonight to share with you the outcome of the 2018 Inter-Korean Summit. Minister Kang got the gist of the summit, so my job now is much easier. As you may have seen on TV, at 9:29 in the morning on April 27, the leaders of South and North Korea shook hands for the first time in 11 years. The April 27 Inter-Korean Summit was a full-day event lasting roughly 12 hours. I know the whole event was broadcast live, but let me refresh your memory of the main events that took place on that day. And after the welcoming ceremony, the two leaders had their official meeting in the morning, planted commemorative tree together. In the afternoon, they also had a private conversation, all by themselves without note-takers, on the footbridge. After talks at the Peace House, they signed and announced the Panmunjom Declaration, and then had a dinner. After the summit, a survey asked Koreans which event they found the most memorable during the summit. Almost 60% answered that it was the two leaders' first encounter. The historic moment when Chairman Kim crossed the military demarcation line and was received by President Moon with a warm handshake. Although it was their first time to meet, President Moon and Chairman Kim were able to engage in substantive and extensive discussions. They had even one-on-one conversations, as Minister Kang mentioned, working together on the bridges. Sometimes they laughed and sometimes they looked more serious. But most importantly, the dialogue between the two leaders was, I was told later, sincere, candid, and wide-ranging. One of the most meaningful outcomes should be, in my view, should be the personal rapport and mutual trust formed between the President Moon and Chairman Kim, especially through the private time they had together. We expect their trust and friendly relations to grow in the future because the two leaders agreed to hold regular meetings and direct telephone calls. The Panmunjom Declaration states that President Moon agreed to visit Pyongyang this fall, and telephone conversations are now made available because a hotline between the two leaders' offices was opened on April 20th. We believe that the trust between the two leaders will be an important asset in developing inter-Korean relations in the coming years. The summit meeting produced tangible progress on three fronts: the development of inter-Korean relations in a sustainable manner, the alleviation of military tension, the denuclearization and the establishment of peace regime on the Korean Peninsula. The agreements of the two leaders were written into the Panmunjom Declaration, which was issued at the summit. Before I brief you on the content of Panmunjom Declaration, let me highlight the fact that it was the first time for the two leaders of the South and North to make a public announcement of their agreement at an inter-Korean summit. Chairman Kim's participation in the ceremony, standing in front of audiences of the world, indicates North Korea's seriousness about its pledges. The Panmunjom Declaration is composed of three main parts, as I have just mentioned. Let me start with the most important issue of denuclearization. First, I'll highlight what the declaration says about denuclearization. The two leaders, quote, confirmed the common goal of realizing, through complete denuclearization, a new nuclear-free Korean Peninsula, unquote. This is a reaffirmation of North Korea's commitment towards denuclearization expressed during our envoy's visit to Pyongyang in March. It's also the first time that North Korea's commitment to denuclearization was included in an inter-Korean document after the 1992 joint declaration on the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. Furthermore, Chairman Kim, together with President Moon, confirmed the goal of a complete denuclearization and came out to the Korean public and the international community to make this declaration. This is why we think the groundwork for the success of the North Korea-US summit was laid at the Inter-Korean Summit. Second, the declaration stresses that improving and cultivating inter-Korean relations is the desire of the whole nation and the urgent calling of the times that cannot be held back any further. The leaders agreed to take concrete steps which include fully implementing all existing inter-Korean agreements, holding dialogue in various fields, encouraging cooperation, exchanges, and contacts at all levels, such as jointly participating in 2018 Asian Games, and opening a joint liaison office in Kaesong. There was also an agreement to resume the reunion of separated families on August 15 and convene an inter-Korean Red Cross meeting. Also, the leaders agreed to implement projects as agreed in the 2000 October 4 agreement declaration to promote balanced economic growth and co-prosperity of the whole nation, adopting practical steps towards the connection and modernization of railways and roads as a first step. For the measures that can be taken immediately, we'll implement swiftly. But for measures that require the right circumstances, we will wait and do preparatory works such as research in the meantime. Third, the declaration underlines that alleviating military tension and eliminating the danger of war is a challenge that directly linked to the fate of the Korean people. The two leaders agreed to completely cease all hostile acts, including broadcasting through loudspeakers and distribution of leaflets, convene military talks at the rank of general in May, transform the DMZ into a genuine peace zone, and turn the areas around the northern limit line in the West Sea into a maritime peace zone. Most of you probably remember, as Minister Kang mentioned, that just a year ago, there was a deep concern about the mounting military tension on and around the Korean Peninsula. But a year later, the two leaders could come together and reach an agreement on the steps to eliminate the danger of war. We cannot but say that is a meaningful progress. Finally, the declaration stresses that, quote, there will be no more war on the Korean Peninsula and thus a new era has begun, unquote. It further states that bringing an end to the current unnatural state of armistice agreement and establishing a robust peace regime on the Korean Peninsula is a historical mission that must not be delayed any further. To this end, the leaders reaffirmed the non-aggression agreement, which was included in the 1992 Basic Agreement, and agreed to carry out disarmament in a phased manner in a substantial progress is made in military confidence building. They also agreed to pursue trilateral and quadrilateral meetings with a view to declaring an end to the war, turning an armistice into a peace treaty, and establishing a permanent and solid peace regime. I have just briefed you on the agreement reached between the two leaders. Now before us is the task to work on implementation. To ensure that the Panmunjom Declaration bears fruit, my government will take the necessary domestic measures in the first place in close cooperation among the relevant ministries. My government will also work very closely together with the US for the success of the upcoming North Korea-US summit. We believe that if we were to make substantive progress in denuclearization and establishing a peace regime on the Korean Peninsula, both summits should be successful. The strong support and close coordination of the international community is needed more than ever to realize our goal of attaining peace and prosperity on the Korean Peninsula. I ask now, on behalf of the Minister Kang and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, for the continued support of all of you participants here tonight, as well as your governments and international organizations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Excellency. Now we will take some questions from the diplomatic corps. Due to time constraints, I ask for your kind understanding that we can only take a couple of questions or so. If you have a question, please raise your hand and our staff will hand a microphone over to you. When you are chosen, please kindly state your name and title before asking your question. Thank you.
And remember, you're on camera, live. So.
Yes, please.
Yes, my name is Hyungjun Lim. I'm head of UN World Food Program, and humanitarian needs in DPRK is real. And 1 out of 3 children is still stunted, and the country is food insecure. So I would like to know when the government of Republic of Korea will resume the humanitarian assistance. Thank you.
Well, I think this has been our agenda for many months now. Our principal position is that humanitarian assistance should be considered aside from any political or security consideration, and we had made a decision to support you, to support other UN entities for your assistance activities in North Korea. But the timing has been a bit sensitive because we want, of course, to do everything in a joint stance vis-a-vis our close partners, such as the United States, Japan, basically to be a unified voice, because we are the strongest when we deal with North Korea with a unified voice, and that requires some coordination. But we maintain that principle, and we're hoping to find that right time very soon.
Yes, in the back.
Excellency, I am Asad Abbas, the Charge d'Affaires from the Embassy of Pakistan. Please accept the congratulations from the government of Pakistan on this auspicious occasion. I would like to know the declaration on maritime agreement on the islands region in the East Sea. Could you elaborate on what practically that declaration entails, the actions?
The part about turning the West Sea
Yes.
area around the NLL into a maritime peace area.
Yes. Yes.
The details of this will be worked out through military talks between the two sides to begin at the general level. I think the statement says sometime in May. And so the talks will happen, and the details of this idea will be worked out, basically to provide a safe environment for fishermen on both sides to conduct their activities. But this is not new. This was an agreement that was included in the 2007 October 4th agreement. There were many things included, spelled out in that agreement of 2007. This time, the Panmunjom Declaration reaffirmed that agreement, and also committed to implementing those that can be immediately implemented. Obviously, the current sanctions regime makes others difficult to implement currently. So those will be pushed back to a time when the circumstances are right, but there are things that can be immediately implemented.
Yes, we'll take one last question.
You can do it sitting down or standing up, however.
No microphone here?
Oh, your microphone.
Thank you. Michael Reiterer, Ambassador of the European Union. I already had the chance to bring the encouragement of President Tusk and the congratulations of High Representative Mogherini. And we have heard now that in the implementation, actions will be taken. There was talk about the closing of nuclear testing facilities, which will need verification. So we would like also to convey the message that if there is need to assist in the verification procedure, we stand ready to help. And we would like to know whether you have already made plans how to approach the important part of implementation of what has been agreed upon.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for your support throughout this process. I think the European Union, the High Representative to the Presidency, has been fully behind us throughout these many months. We are, in fact, I'm just coming back from the first meeting of the committee to promote the implementation of the Panmunjom Declaration. Basically, we've turned the preparatory committee for the summit into an implementation oversight committee, and the first meeting was held this afternoon. I think the closure of the nuclear test site is an immediate task that the North Koreans have invited us, the United States, and international journalists, I believe is the exact word. It doesn't exactly say international organizations, but the international community to come and observe so that they can do this with transparency. We will know further what they mean by that when we sit to talk at the logistics of this task. But I think it does indicate that they want to proceed to show the international community they mean they're serious and they want to do things with transparency moving forward. So it's a good indication from them. But again, the details have to be worked out.
I was informed that we have time for maybe one or maybe two more questions. If there are any more questions, please raise your hand.
Your Excellency, Minister Khan, Your Excellencies, my colleague, my name is Dalhatu. I am Ambassador from Nigeria. I wish to join in congratulating the President and government of the Republic of Korea on this historic occasion. The reaction of the world has been positive, and but I could not help but notice that the Japanese Prime Minister's reaction was a bit measured, and their concerns are very clear and understandable. Are there any of such concerns that should have been considered in your joint declaration and which were not? Thank you.
I think the joint declaration is sufficiently comprehensive, but obviously it couldn't contain everything that was discussed between President Moon and Chairman Kim. And I think we are making public what can be made public. For example, the chairman said further about the decision to close down the nuclear test site, but that didn't make it into the declaration. But he did say he has these plans for the closure, and we can make further announcement about this intention after the summit's closure. So there were other details to the discussions, some which have been public, but others, I think, for various reasons, are still being held because it may require our consultations with the U.S. or Japan or China. But I can tell you that the quality and the quantity of the discussion was much richer than what the statement, the declaration. You will see what's written down on the declaration.
Okay, I think that is all the time we have for questions. Please hold on to your questions. You can ask them later during the reception. And Excellencies, please feel free to return to your seats. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I was hoping the sun this morning would hold up. Unfortunately, we've had a big rain pour in the meantime, but it's cleared up again. I'm not sure if it's safe to walk out, but give it a try. It's a beautiful garden. But thank you so much for coming. Thank you.
This concludes the official portion of the evening. Once again, on behalf of Minister Kang, I thank all of you for joining us. You may feel free to move around and enjoy the refreshments and food we prepared. Thank you.
Yes, I agree. Thank you.
Pakistan Excellency. Thank you so much.
감사합니다. 시청해 주셔서 감사합니다. 이렇게 우리 한국이 국제사회 외교의 한 중간에 지금 서 있다는 기분입니다. 이렇게 많은 대사들이 오셔서 남북 정상회담 결과에 대해서 잘 청취해 주시고 또 앞으로도 계속 각 나라는 물론 국제사회 전체가 우리의 뒤에 있는 듯한 기분을 느낍니다. 그래서 그 격려, 그 지원을 받아서 북미 정상회담에 성공해서 우리가 할 일을 하고 또 그 이후에 필요한 여러 가지 외교적인 과제에 대해서 열심히 할 각오를 하게 됩니다. 감사합니다.
끝난 거예요. 카트 끊을게요. 문석 PD 끊을게 일단. 저 뒤에 장비 치울 수 있게 좀 빌려주셔야 되는 장비가 있는데 잠깐만. 저기 장비가 있어가지고. 아이고.